tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day, but it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
Which was previously known as Bovis Homes, said consumer confidence had improved since the end of last year, particularly as mortgage rates had fallen while the availability of home loans had improved. The company, which late last year bought rival Countryside Partnerships, reported adjusted pre-tax profits for 2022 of £418.4 million, and that was up 21% on 2021. And WPP, the world's biggest advertising company, is buying Goat, a specialist social media influencer marketing agency, for an undisclosed sum. Goat, which employs more than 150 people, was founded 7 years ago by Aaron Shepard, Harry Hugo and Nick Cook, who previously worked together at a fan engagement app called Sport Lobster. Its clients include Dell Computers, Beefeater Gin, Mars and Audi. Well, Mark Reed, the WPP chief executive, said influencer marketing was a key growth priority, and he praised Goat's track record in the field. Now, as the hospitality sector continues its post-COVID recovery, hotel operators have been stepping up their investment plans, among them Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts. The company, which is controlled by Bill Gates' investment vehicle Cascade and the Saudi Prince Al Walid bin Talal, has more than 50 new projects under planning or development. It's also planning a new restaurant at its flagship UK site on London's Park Lane, overseen by Yannick Alainio. He's the multi-Michelin starred chef. Well, joining me now from the Four Seasons on Park Lane is Simon Casson. He's President of Operations at Four Seasons in Europe, the Middle East and Africa. Simon, welcome to you. How did you trade last year in the region? Are you back to pre-pandemic levels of business now?
Good morning, Ian. Delighted to be on the show. If I might just say, interestingly, firstly, I'm talking to you here from the Four Seasons on Park Lane, which was at the genesis of the Four Seasons story, being the first hotel in the 70s to open outside of the Americas. And on a personal note is where 34 years ago, I walked in and joined as a junior assistant manager. But whizzing up to current day, trading conditions have been robust. We had, a very successful 2022 and early indicators in the first quarter of 2023 that we're expecting that to continue. So great demand and a great global resurgence for travel and hospitality, and wonderful for London, of course.
Obviously, inflation is everywhere. Has that what have you done with your room rates in response?
Room rates are always a function of, market realities. And in a luxury business, we're going to be at the top end of that range of room rates. But we're confident with the 14 suites that we've renovated, and as you touched upon, the new Yannick Alainio restaurant coming, that we're offering value for money to a luxury traveler who values space, time, and really intuitive personal service, which is what they come to Four Seasons for.
Now, looking at the new opening schedule, it looks like you're targeting Italy, Spain, Morocco and Saudi Arabia. Why those territories in particular?
Well, those in addition to many others, Italy, one never tires of Italy. It's an amazing luxury destination. Those White Lotus fans that are listening in will have seen our hotel in Taormina feature prominently there. We're opening in Puglia, and we took over the iconic Hotel Danieli in Venice, which is going through renovation, and we're sort of managing it unbranded for a period of time until we open it as a Four Seasons hotel. So I think Italy is always a story for the luxury traveler. Saudi Arabia is the country with the single biggest hotel growth in the globe at the moment. An incredible accelerated vision for new projects, and we've announced recently in Diriyah Gate and Jeddah, with more to come. So exciting times in a country that's going through dramatic change.
You touched on your plans for London just now. Obviously, the weakness in sterling has been a tailwind for you in recent months. Is that starting to sort of peter out now? Well,
we're certainly seeing, a change from that macroeconomic perspective. It makes us more attractive to some and less attractive to others. But we tend to look at a longer term value proposition. Guests come for location on Park Lane, for the brand, for the beautiful interiors, but that just makes a good hotel. This quantum leap from good to great, it's human, it's experiential, it's delivered by people, and it's that luxury with a genuine heart that is bringing people back to the brand. And we're thrilled that London, both here on Park Lane, our hotel at 10 Trinity Square as well, are having a really solid rebound into 2023.
How big an event for you is the King's coronation going to be in terms of driving business?
Well, as a Brit who's lived abroad for many years, I'm extraordinarily, proud of the coronation to come. And we think it's a great thing for brand Britain, for the UK, particularly for London. So we're going to be playing our part with sort of promotions and events surrounding that, attracting people to the capital and looking forward to, a much needed reason to celebrate and to be proud of London, to be proud of Britain. And, what we're doing in the hospitality sector, I believe, plays an important role in it.
Yeah, all leave cancelled, I imagine, Simon. Good to talk to you this morning. Thank you. Still to come here on Ian King Live, we're going to have a look at how the markets are doing this Wednesday morning. What a week it's been in the markets. I'll give you the latest after this short break. Don't go away.
So last week we demonstrated OneWeb low Earth orbit connectivity using a Kymeta flat panel user terminal with a team of first responder that went up to Mount Snowdon, and for the first time ever had a live video stream from a dead zone that's quite notorious in the region. And this was really to demonstrate what the power of low Earth orbit satellite connectivity can do, not only for the UK, but wider on a global basis. In the UK alone, 8% of the land masses do not have 4G or even completely absent communication. And there are estimated 3,000 rescue calls a year in Britain. So for those teams intervening on site, this is a game changer. Today, they can go on a difficult mission with no connectivity. Now with OneWeb and this flat panel transportable technology, they can be mounted on a vehicle. They can run a network up to 1 kilometer around the vehicle, enabling all the first responder to communicate live. And that's not just voice, it's live video call, it's rich data exchange of map, weather warning, flooding, effectively communicating with the control center, hospitals, all the time. And this is really changing even the safety of the first responder teams themselves. Now, beyond the UK, this technology is very relevant in Europe. There are a lot of wildfire responses units that will need the same technology. Maybe the the infrastructure has gone due to a fire, or if we take the example of Turkey, it's very particularly places where all the fiber connectivity has gone down. So OneWeb is really bringing that high speed, low latency, reliable connectivity to pretty much where the places are unconnected.
Well, the surprise rise in inflation last month has sent sterling higher on the foreign exchange market this morning as investors start to price in another interest rate rise from the Bank of England. Sterling currently up by nearly 2/3 against the US dollar. It's up by nearly 1/2% right now against the euro. The single currency, meanwhile, is up just over 1/6 against the greenback right now. On the equity markets, Wall Street's solid performance last night was followed by gains across the Asia-Pacific region. Tokyo returned from its public holiday to finish up nearly 2%, while elsewhere there have been gains in Hong Kong, Shanghai, Mumbai, Sydney and in Singapore. Well, in Europe, though, markets have taken a bit of a pause for breath this morning, although, as you can see, there are still in positive territory, more or less. The MIB in Milan and the CAC 40 in France, more or less unchanged right now. Talking points in Europe this morning include Rovio, the Finnish maker of the Angry Birds computer game, is off 2% in Helsinki after takeover talks came to an end. Elsewhere, we're keeping a very close eye, as you might expect, on UBS in Switzerland following its rescue of Credit Suisse on Monday. The shares rose actually by 12% yesterday. They're up a further they're off right now by 1%. So they're hanging on to most of yesterday's gains. Well, here in London, the FTSE 100 is down by just under a fifth of 1%. The big dollar earners are weighing on the index following that rise in sterling. The leading faller in percentage terms, though, are the property trio, British Land, Land Securities and Segro. You can see there, they're all down by around 2.5% to 4%. That's on broker comment this morning. Outside the FTSE 100, Vistry, the house builder, I mentioned them earlier on in the programme. The shares are ahead by some 2.5% on those results. While the fashion brand Superdry, not had a lot of good news lately, but it's up 6% right now after it offloaded some of its intellectual property assets in Asia for $50 million US. Meanwhile, the software provider Bytes Technology is up some 5% right now. That is on the back of a trading update. As for the oil price, well, it slipped overnight following 2 straight days of gains following news of a surprise increase in US crude inventories. A barrel of Brent crude will currently set you back $74.85 a barrel. That is off a little under 2/3%. Well, joining me now is the head of investment at the Interactive Investor, Victoria Scholar. Victoria, welcome to you. Before we talk about the macro, let's talk about some specific company news. We did have these results from Fevertree today. No surprise, I guess, that profits fell.
Yeah, we did see this drop in profits by 37% in terms of the annual figure for core profit, but revenue actually grew by 11% and came in line with analysts' expectations, and it managed to propose an ordinary dividend up 2%. It's interesting to see this big bounce today in the stock, which goes against the recent downtrend that we've largely seen since 2018. I think investors are responding positively to the fact that Fevertree is going to be raising prices. It's already been doing so, and that's to try to offset some of those cost pressures from increased energy costs and glass bottling prices as well, which of course has been weighing on its margins. So perhaps some positivity coming through around the fact that it feels as though it can pass on these additional cost pressures to consumers, ideally without denting demand.
Yeah, I mean, that has been the big story. I mean, all of the guests that we have on this programme in recent weeks, I've been amazed. They all talk fairly confidently about their ability to pass on costs. I mean, on that background, I guess we shouldn't be too surprised that inflation has risen last month.
Yeah, you're right. And it's interesting that companies do feel emboldened enough to do so at a time when economic growth is sluggish, wages are falling in real terms, and of course we're in the midst of a cost of living crisis. But we'll have to wait and see whether these price increases can actually translate into higher overall sales, or whether that will actually have a negative impact on demand. But in an inflationary environment, when it comes to stock picking, it's often about choosing companies that are price makers rather than price takers, which essentially means that they can push through those additional costs without having a negative impact on sales.
Now, obviously, that's for the Bank of England to judge tomorrow. In the meantime, tonight we hear from the US Federal Reserve. What are you expecting?
Well, it looks as though we're poised for a 25 basis point increase. It's interesting because over the last year, all of the discussion has focused around inflation and the price pressures that have prompted central banks, including the Fed, to move towards this hawkish rate hiking cycle. But now there's something else thrown into the mix, which of course is the banking crisis. And there is the potential for this to have a deflationary impact on the US economy, as it increases the chances of potential recession amid the fallout from this chaos. So now the Fed will be weighing up on the one side those price pressures that endure and linger on for much longer than they would have hoped, versus the potential economic fallout from this crisis. But given that the ECB raised rates last week, and given that inflation is still very high, it does look as though the Fed will continue to hike, but possibly at a less aggressive pace.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, Christine Lagarde from the European Central Bank was making this point yesterday, that these twists and turns in the
all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day, but it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820, or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Turn it on. Turn it up.
Body is your man. Bekutu, show them you got the cocoa set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Harry Song, aka Mr. Songs. This is the Kingmaker Baba for the girls. We're here. This is Starr Radio. Don't go nowhere. UK, London. We call them London for home. For here, we call them London. And that's how you know. Just have fun and stay blessed.
Hi there. This is CJ Buckman, your life coach. And whenever I'm in London, I listen to Starr Radio UK right here. But guess what? You can listen to wherever you are.
The best radio show. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car.
At work.
At home.
On your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie and you are listening to Starr Radio UK and The Morning Show.
This is Starr Radio. This is
UK.
Starr Radio UK. This is Starr Radio.
Love for you runs deep. All of you makes my heart beat. You make a doubt they fade, Jesus, and that's what makes you great. You hold the
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth, and those of you on other planets as well. We salute each and every one of you, and once again we say welcome to the program. It is Wednesday, the 22nd day of March, the year 2023. Time now 10:37 from the House of London. And of course, it is the Wednesday edition of the morning show. But I'm saying good morning to my team this morning. Mr. Olayomi, Mr. Frank Davis, and Mr. Francis Guy, my able producer. Massive good morning to you, sirs. And a special good morning goes to all our wonderful listeners from across the globe. Those of you in Nigeria, those of you in Ghana, in South Africa, especially Mr. Beneza Hammond. It is your birthday today, Cape Town, South Africa, and I say happy birthday to you. May the Lord continue to open heavens unto you. And if you're celebrating any special day today too, I salute you. Anthony Adedeji, good morning to you. Bishop Adeshina, good morning. Moyiwa, good morning. Sir Moses, good morning to you. Olakunle, good morning. All of you. And all you wonderful people who have tuned in to listen to us. Samsudin, good morning to you as well. Okay, because it's a Wednesday edition of the morning show, you know what? And that's what makes you great. I'm going to bring you the quote for the day. The weather forecast is following suit. Then I will bring you the travel update as well. We'll continue from there. Look at some of the stories making the rounds from across the globe, known as Global Trotting. And then we'll continue from there. And exactly at 11 o'clock, we have Mr. Olayomi Koike, who will be bringing you some updates from Nigeria. But you want to know more about what is happening in Nigeria this evening, exactly at 18 hours GMT. Yes, it will be live. That's the Niger Voices with Mr. Olayomi Koike. But then we continue from there and have a look at some of the stories making the rounds. And at 12 o'clock, we take you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. So, in that's what's going to happen today. Wherever you are, stay glued to yourself. Don't touch the dial. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
God Almighty, I worship you.
Now the quote for the day says, if you do not like what you are getting out of life, change what you are giving to life, because life will give back to you exactly what you give to it. My goodness, that is a strong and very thoughtful one, isn't it? So you can change your tomorrow by your thoughts and what you're doing today. What about that? So whatever you are doing, make sure that you are doing the right thing. What about that? All right then, so now let's crack on. Let's look at some of the other bits of the program that this time around pertaining to the weather front. It feels a bit milder than it's been of late.
And that's what makes you great. You hold the world in your hand.
Well, for London and the southeast of England, this is how the weather is going to be for you. It's going to be turning drier in the afternoon with cloud breaking up in places to give some brighter spells. A windy day with some strong gusts expected as well. Tonight's cloud and showery rain will push in from the west. This heavy in places. It will soon clear eastwards, leaving it largely clear and dry with just a small chance of a shower. It's going to be windy as well. Temperature is going to be 15 degrees. The low is going to be 9 degrees. Pollen level is going to be low. UV level moderate. Pollution low as well. Sunset 18:16. Sunrise for tomorrow morning 06 hours. That brings us to the end of the weather forecast. It is Starr Radio UK. Jump for the one the time. The morning show, the program. Archie, your man.
Great are you, Lord.
Now let's we take a quick commercial break and then I take you straight to the roads. Let's see what your travels is or are like wherever you might be.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day, but it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads. Keep your eyes on the roads. I'm keeping updated. I promise I'm on the Starr Radio UK travel update. I come to you every weekday from 10:40. It's now 10:42. So what is happening on your travel this morning? Let me tell you, those of you in the UK, especially those of you in London, this is what is happening. Now on the underground this morning, the district line has got past suspension, no service between Turnham Green and Richmond due to a signal failure at Kew Gardens. Now London Underground tickets accepted on buses and Southwest train services via any reasonable routes. Good service on the rest of the line though. Now when it comes to the Jubilee line, minor delays due to train shortage. Where are the trains? That aside, all the others are moving, good, have good service there. But we'll move on. DLR, London Tramlink, good service, but the London Overground is part suspended. No service between Richmond and Willesden Junction while they fix a signal failure in the Kew Gardens. Good service on all other routes though. But it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your travel update. Starr, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Keep your eyes on the roads. Now moving on to the major roads in London: A13, A2, A24, A4, Blackwall Tunnel, Central London Red routes. They've all got closures, but A40 has got serious delays there as well. The River Bus has got good service throughout. The London Cable Car, good service there as well. I'm moving on straight to the final segment of the travel updates. That's the National Rail. What have we got in stock for you? Well, listen. Avanti West Coast has got minor delays cross country. Great Western, ScotRail, Southeastern, Thameslink have all got minor delays. Transport for Wales has got special service. That aside, all the others, good service. And that is where I would say it once again. As a friend says, say it loud. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today. But you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the roads.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day, but it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Mimi Clemens, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business. The show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business, but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dance all taking over. Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dance all taking over. Yo, what's up, people? This is a boy Raskin #1. Tune in every day, every night at the Starr Radio UK with the big man them Archie. When I say order, you say fire.
Welcome back to the program. It is Starr Radio UK, and let me say good morning to my brother. Yes, my half brother, Moses Olaniran. Moses, how are you? He said, hello. We're here. for Europe. For you, hope Olayomi is coming. Yes, he's coming. He's going to be joining soon. Yoruba Nation is our goal, and it will come to pass. So tell the world outside there. Yes, and I say it all the time. If you believe in a cause, you stand for it. Yes, maybe in your lifetime you might not be able to see the results of what you are doing, but somebody, somewhere, somehow will come. Maybe your children, or maybe your children's children. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be you. So whatever it is, you believe, you are convicted about it, continue to prod on, and I tell you that something good will come your way from there. But it's now 10:47 because it's a Wednesday edition of the morning show. We want to pack everything before we take you to the Houses of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. And therefore, when it comes to some of the stories making the rounds across the globe on the global trotting, when it comes to Nigeria, Tinubu should release Nnamdi Kanu after swearing in. That's what Soludo is saying. Now, do you think he's going to be listening to that? Maybe if he does that, would that bring about some peace in the southeast and some sort of peace in the country? Let's say he does that and he just stretches an olive branch to Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho as well. Maybe that will all just cool things. Cool the pressure. You think that's going to happen? Well, Tinubu, president in waiting. But however, when it comes to some of the stories making the round, the what do you call him, Atiku and a few of the others have also said that the courts should, okay. Now Tinubu, a hypocrite, looked away as MC Oluomo others threatened disenfranchised Igbos in Lagos. Mr. Atiku Abubakar and Mr. Tinubu was silent for a month as traditional rulers, APC tax and all that. I mean, they are talking about what they did when it came to the gubernatorial election that took place over the weekend. But Atiku, Obi, and two others are asking the tribunal to nullify Tinubu's victory. Now, is it going to be sworn in? Or they're going to say, okay, let's wait, let's see. I don't know how the constitution is like, the details of the constitution in Nigeria. But when Yomi comes on, he'll be telling us more about that. Is it that when there is a petition, the petition has to be heard first, and then there should be a ruling before the inauguration takes place, or inauguration can take place and then the petition can go on concurrently, and if the courts decide that, well, the person who has been sworn in is not the legitimate winner of the election, then maybe some way, somehow, the person is sacked or fired. Is it? Right. We're going to be telling you more about that once we have Mr. Olayomi on. So don't you go away. Buhari handing over to Tinubu on May 29, like installing military coup plotter as president. Dati Baba Ahmed is saying. Everybody's saying this. What are you saying? What are you thinking? Let us know what you think about. And let's move on. Now, when it comes to this part of the world, well, today happens to be some big day for who? Well, Johnson could have shut down parties, but didn't. Number 10 officials say in evidence, a panel investigating the former Prime Minister's statement has released a bundle of evidence this morning before questioning him later. Later on, I don't know if Starr will be able to capture all that, but if not, we'll bring you a sneak view of what is going to be taking place, an inquiry that is being set to take place today. So, but interestingly, Boris and the shortest, is it the shortest ever, or maybe in our lifetime, the shortest ever Prime Minister, Liz Truss, they're saying that the deal that has been brokered by the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, they are going to vote against it. All right then. So more going to be happening, and then Trump has not been arrested yet, so we don't know what is going to be happening there, but I'll be following it very, very closely. And for that, as Russia launches new attack on Ukraine, is one other story is making the round. Ukraine to clinch first IMF loan to nation at war. $15.6 billion financing package is expected to be approved in the coming weeks. And UN warns against vampiric global water use. A new report warning of endemic water scarcity is released ahead of a 3-day water summit. We'll be following that very, very closely and be telling you more about all that is happening there. But Trump says protest. His supporters say stay home. So what is it? Now, Donald Trump demanded protest over his possible arrest, but his supporters fear being set up. You know what? Like what happened in the Capitol event. He told them, go there, I'm going to meet you there. And then they went there, and he never went. So somewhere outside. So this time around, they think that if they go, there's a tendency that, well, the police will use that to maybe arrest them and say that you were all part of those that were in that insurrection. Now, what do you think about all that? More going to be coming your way from there. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, this morning too, some information came through talking about earthquake in Pakistan and Afghanistan kills 12. The 6.5 magnitude quake was centered in a remote Afghan valley, which is prone to seismic activity. Okay, so we'll see what. And Japan and China visit rival capitals in Ukraine war. Both leaders are on strategic foreign visits on opposing sides of the conflict. So while the Chinese leader is in Russia, the Japanese leader was in Ukraine or is in Ukraine. What do you think? Should India abolish its state governors? Well, then somebody will say, should Nigeria do the same? Well, we'll tell you more about all those. There are lots happening, but we'll make sure we'll ram them all in and bring them all your way. When it comes to the African continent as well, Kenya, 83% increase in tourism revenues in 2022, which is good for them. Because after the pandemic, most people have decided to, they're not traveling to tourist centers because especially they're not very, very sure, and because of the lockdowns and people need to be whipped, the interest needs to be whipped to be enticed to get to those places. But what Kenya has seen, 83% increase. Why not? That's a good one there. The Chad jails over 400 rebels for life after ruler's death. Why? We'll be telling you more about that. Nigeria's opposition petition to overturn election results, as I did say earlier on. That's more going to be coming your way from there. And then, your electricity bill does not have a party color. ECG is saying that the ECG, that's the electricity company of Ghana, is saying that the managing director saying, well, when it comes to your electricity bill, we don't have the various parties, the main political parties in Ghana, NDC or NPP, we don't have them. So that this one is an NDC member, and therefore his bill has to go up or. So he's saying that, well, it's all pertaining to how much you've used. But overborrowing is one of Akufo-Addo's biggest mistakes. Professor J is saying, what do you think about all that? That's a lot more going to be coming your way from Ghana as well. How a presidential staff has told 18,000 men for Jirakwa chief caused NDC's 2016 defeat. Wow, that is another one there, but I'm going to be bringing you more details about that in a moment. Wherever you are, stay tuned. Don't touch the dial. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. NDC primaries, elect competent, hard-working candidates. That's what the president, the former president, is saying. Mahama. A JB Killer's mini trial. XCID boss threatening me to admit charged statements. Sexy Don Don is saying. Oh my, oh my, oh my. That's lots happening, but you cannot get it from anywhere. It's going to get it from here. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on. Let's listen to some lovely music, and then we'll continue with the show. It is Starr, and I am.
This is the morning show with Archie.
Okay, let's enjoy this song from Cal Clotte featuring Joe Metal, and it says Mokobe. There isn't anyone apart from God who can sort your issues out for you. What about that? Enjoy it, and we'll be having Miss Olayomi Koiki in a moment. Stay tuned.
Niebo osele mokobe wachanyumo wawopeno Niebo osele mokobe Mokobe, Mokobe, Yebosele, Mokobe, 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 Yebosele, Mokobe, say, we are such to
Couldn't find nobody. So we have searched and searched, searched and searched, couldn't find nobody. Help me say, we have searched and searched, searched and searched.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7 on your smartphone.
Are you ready to turn it up?
This is Starr Radio UK.
Couldn't find nobody. We have searched and searched. Say it again. And we have searched and searched. We have searched and searched. We have
Well, we've searched and searched and searched, we found nobody. Mokobe. Mokobeni Tamobo. There is no one like you. There's no one like our God. I hope that this morning you've enjoyed that tune that came your way. It is All Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Kaklote featuring Joe Metal. Soothing your morning for you today. We're coming your way from Starr Radio UK. Wherever you might be this morning, share the broadcast with your friends and loved ones and invite them to like our pages as well. Starr Radio UK, it is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. We're going to be taking a commercial break, and once we come back, we shall have Ms. Olayomi on, and then we'll be looking at some of the stories making the rounds in Nigeria today. Now, non-state actors have committed arbitrary and unlawful killings, disappearances, physical abuse, and other mistreatment. Now, Boko Haram-inspired terrorist groups and the Islamic State in West Africa continued attacks on civilians, military, police, humanitarian, and religious targets. Recruited and forcefully conscripted child soldiers and carried out scores of attacks on population centers in the northeast region and in Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. Now, abductions by Boko Haram and the Islamic State in the West Africa continue, but both groups subjected many women and girls to gender-based violence, including forced marriages, sexual slavery, and rape. What more charge can you level against them? Is it not a war crime? But how come that the Nigerian government and the governments in the West African region are not being able to put their heads together to actually clear the region of this menace that is going on? Now, you want to know more about that? Stay tuned, don't go away. That was a report from the country human rights practices. Country reports on human rights practices in Nigeria. So coming away from Starr Radio UK, let's take a break, and once we come back, we'll continue with the show. I am Archie.
SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it, you're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Welcome back to the program. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London on this Wednesday morning edition of the morning show. And Tons AJ, good morning, the greatest white lion, and Archie, and we salute you, Tons. I hope you are doing very, very well as well. We thank God Nigeria has not happened to you, as we say on this platform, but it is my singular honor to introduce to you once again the white lion, the one and only Miss Olayomi Koiki. Yomi, good morning to you.
Well, a very good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning to our listeners and viewers, and welcome once again to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. And I come back slightly again back to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Yes, how are you doing, sir?
Well, doing very good. It's good to be back again this morning, as we also look forward to Niger Voices in just about a few hours from now. But for now, we're going to be looking at some of those important headlines again out of Nigeria, as America is now talking about the human rights, and the outcome of the election has also been discussed by the U.S. mission in Nigeria, and so many other news, as election is still the most important discussion in Nigeria, which is expected. I was actually listening to you. It seems as the electricity bill is growing up in Ghana. Those in Nigeria are complaining. There was a community that never had electricity for a very long time, but as the election was coming, they were being fed with so much electricity. On Sunday morning, they've actually taken it off.
That's a good one. Go vote for us. You finish there, you see what you really voted for. Well, that's why I always say that our people have to be wise enough to know that these politicians, they are all liars, I tell you. But it is Star Radio UK. Mr. Olayomi Koiki there for you in our North London studios. I'm actually here in the South studios, and we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. Because the Wednesday edition of the morning show, we'll try to ram up a lot of things in there, and we'll go on. But as he said earlier on, exactly at 18 hours GMT, or GMT plus 1 for those of you in Nigeria, yes, Niger Voices will be on, and we're going to be having in-depth analysis of all the stories that is making the round, and give you enough time for you to put your views across. But quickly, with the U.S. commenting, U.S. embassy in Nigeria commenting about the election itself, has the president-elect received a congratulatory message from the American president? Because after all, Nigeria is the most populous nation when it comes to the African continent. Have they, or has he received any message?
It's 25th of February, and when you look at it now, by 3 days from now, it will be exactly a month, that the Nigeria has have the election, and a month from then, Biden has not put that call through. It could be for so many reasons, as we do know that Nigeria is a very, very key important aspect of the U.S. relationship with Nigeria for a very long time. But I can confirm that call hasn't come true. There's a lot of reason for that. I think that there's a lot of pressure from the U.S. Government not to probably put that call through, especially that a court case is still ongoing. Maybe that could change, but there's been another press statement yesterday. I'm going to come into that in just about a few minutes. Let me come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Well, listeners, it is Star Radio UK. He's going to give you a bit of that press statement. But as per the Nigerian Constitution, how does it work? Does it mean that, well, if there's an election petition, the petition has to be heard before inauguration takes place, or inauguration will take place and the petition can go on concurrently? What is it going to be like?
The election tribunal is going to go ahead, but as we do know, just as so many other countries around the world as well, most people believe that tribunal is meant to be up and running. We're still in the month of March, so these things can still take place. How long they would have to facilitate it? I mean, it's got nothing to do with the Constitution, but the 1999 Constitution already having the section of the tribunal. So the tribunal will be up and running. Whether there will be judgment or not is something that a lot of people might not be sure about. But let me take you to what I picked up this morning just before coming on air. This is a former governor of Ekiti State known as Fayose. He was speaking regarding this election. Let's hear what he has to say.
I'm not desperate for any appointment. I am somebody who will not cringe because of a piece of me. Don't mind whatever the two boys say. In 2 million Nigerians have been governor twice, I am contented. But for anybody to say you will sit Ahmed Bola Tinubu, you are daydreaming. You are daydreaming. It's a nightmare you are putting yourself through. That election has come and gone. All right. In America, today, the former president is still saying it was rigged. He that will come to Ekiti must have clean hands. So, Governor Fayose, we just have that election has come and gone. We have 30 seconds. But there's liberty to go to court. Yeah.
You have that is a former governor, right there clearing it out to say, even though he's not a member of the APC, his opposition party, but also fully disagree with Atiku. And he says right there, for anybody to say you will unseat Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president-elect, on the 25th, you are a daydreamer. That election has come and gone. Are Nigerians going to react to it? Let me quickly give you some of the reaction, from the comment section. This is just the bitter fact. Election all over the world are like this. Even Donald Trump is still crying. But what happened after that? Question mark. Biden is almost completing his tenure, so I will advise Atiku and Peter Obi to start planning for 2027 instead of wasting resources in the court. Another one says, I love the fact Fayose says it how it is meant to be. No time for fooling around. Let's build Nigeria instead of all these court cases. Don't cases that won't even enter the room forever. And another one says, you lied. Bring back our mandate. Will never voted APC. So a very divided comment section, but whether the court case goes ahead in time before May 29 or not, the question is, will the court overturn this election? And should the court overturn the election, what will be the reaction of the other opposition party that has won election as well? All these is something that we can speculate around, but because of the time, later on tonight, aftermath of the election, what next for Nigerians will be the topic that we're going to be looking at. Aftermath of the election, what next for Nigeria? Starr Radio UK, I'll come back again to you in the studio, Mr. Archie.
Yes, what next for Nigeria? The aftermath of the election. Miss Gold, I say they said Tinubu is in abroad for treatment to we don't know, Miss Gold. Have you seen him? You've not seen him, so it's all speculation. But well, somebody said that the systems in the US works. Now, Trump was told to bring evidence. They didn't have enough evidence to actually show that the election was rigged. So it was all more to do with just sensationalism, just people making lots of noise, and that's what. But when it comes to Nigeria, I don't know whether the systems are robust enough to be actually say that, well, actually this took place. Maybe coming out to emphatically say that there were lots of rigging, but maybe it wouldn't have had impact on the final results. But what do you think about that? It's all from Starr Radio UK. Moving on. Let me just hop on quickly. Tinubu, a hypocrite, looked away as MC Olayomi others threatening disenfranchised Igbos in Lagos. Mr. Atiku Abubakar said Mr. Tinubu was silent for a month as traditional rulers, APC tax and politicians threaten non-indigenous in Lagos. Now, has Tinubu come out now, or somebody from his inner circle come out to maybe debunk that statement or put some clarity on it?
Well, not yet. As much as most of them are still, defending, that election, was won. Tinubu has not really spoken. Like I said, like yesterday, we cannot speculate where Tinubu is, but he has not sent any congratulatory recorded message that we have that we can present, to our listeners this morning. So nobody knows his location as we speak right now, but there's a lot of rumors out there. But we don't go with the rumor, we go with the fact. Atiku and Peter Obi, two others, asked tribunal to nullify Tinubu's victory. Likewise, Atiku is saying that Tinubu looked away while there was so much impunity, bigotry. Even though I've listened to the governor of Lagos State, and if I quickly bring that in as well, I know we are very, very time limit this morning, but this is what Babajide Sanwo-Olu had to say while he was inspecting a project.
To talk to our citizens, and that's what I said also at my acceptance speech, that we don't have any space for ethnicity, or ethnic bigotry in our own system. We don't have any space for any divisive coloration that want to continue to divide us. And that you could also see. You can see the turnout, the commercial activity that has immediately, ensued in Lagos. At the Yaba station, we have a huge Hausa community. We had a huge Eastern, Southern community, and we also have a huge Yoruba community. And everybody is trading, and they are committing, and they are expressing themselves, and you saw all of them. And that's the spirit of Lagos.
Well, that's the spirit of Lagos, according to the governor. Everybody has gone back, to their, daily activities. Business, economy is already, transaction is going on. He made use of Yaba, which I know very well. But it seems that Atiku disagreed, with the governor, because Atiku actually said Tinubu hypocrite. He actually looked away as MC Oluomo and others threaten and disenfranchise the Igbos in Lagos State. Mr. Atiku Abubakar said Mr. Tinubu was silent for a month as traditional rulers and the APC thugs and politicians threatened non-indigene in Lagos State. This is coming from Atiku, the presidential aspirant candidate for the People's Democratic Party, actually said yesterday. Mr. Atiku's statement came as reaction to Mr. Tinubu's condemnation of electoral violence and voter intimidation was taking place, especially in the March 18. I'm going to take you straight before coming back to what America reaction. This is the American mission, the High Commission in Nigeria, and this is what actually came from their own side. Nigeria carried out the second round of its electoral process with the gubernatorial and the state national assembly on March 18. The United States is deeply troubled by the disturbing act of violent voter intimidation and suppression that took place during the polls in Lagos State and Kano and the other state. Members of the United States diplomatic mission observed the elections in Lagos and elsewhere and witnessed some of these incidents firsthand. The use of ethnically charged rhetoric before, during, and after the gubernatorial election in Lagos was particularly concerned. We commend all Nigerian political actors, religious, community leaders, youth, and citizens who have chosen to reject and speak out against such violent and inflammatory language, affirming Nigerians' commitment to and respect for democratic process. We call on the Nigerian authority to hold accountable and bring to justice any individuals. That definitely is not going to happen. But again, I've just picked up, like I said earlier as well, the American government also, is talking about the U.S. believe that the government must promote respect for human rights for each and every human being, abide by their human right obligation and commitment. Is the Nigerian government going to really abide by the human right of each and every Nigerian, abide by the human right obligation that is signed into according to international law? These are some of the questions that is very easy for the American mission and the American government to tell Nigerian government. Even Nigerian government refused to release Nnamdi Kanu after the United Nations has actually intervened. The question then is, who is Nigeria going to listen to? If they cannot listen to United Nations, they can't listen to America, neither can they listen to the United States, the United Kingdom, the UK government as well. 2022 country report on human rights practice. I'll be going into more of that in details later on tonight as well. Quite a lot in depth of information is in there, but just for the executive summary, the Nigerian police, which report to Ministry of the Police, is overseen by the Police Service Commission. They talked about the insurgency in the East. Significant human rights issues include credible report of unlawful, arbitrary killings, forced disappearance, torture, cases of cruel, inhumane, degrading treatment or punishment by the government, harsh and life-threatening prison condition, arbitrary arrest or detention, serious problem. And I can tell you that on Saturday, a guy known as Chud has actually been taken away from Anambra State because his utterance was not allowed by the governor Soludo. Let's take you back to 2019. Daddy Yati, as we speak today, is nowhere to be found. His daughter is growing very fast without a father. Human rights abuse is so common in Nigeria and by the military across the country. Star Radio UK, the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London at 11:23 a.m.
Yes, listeners, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, as Yomi has said. Now let's move on straight to one other story. Now, do you think that is what Solodu is saying, that Tinubu should release Nnamdi Kanu after he's been sworn in? But do you think that is going to happen at all? Looking at what is happening at the moment, do you think that maybe Tinubu will, look at the whole thing, unrest and everything that is going on, how it's impacting the economy, the local economy, and the economy, the larger economy of Nigeria as a whole? But the question is, if he does that, is he going to also go to Dr. Stretch an olive branch to Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho as well, and say that, you know what, we are all brethren. Let's, see to talk things over and make things work better for us. Do you think it's going to be doing that, or is Solodu just dreaming? And what party does Solodu belong to as well?
Well, it's not the first time Solodu had the opportunity to pay a visit to Nnamdi Kanu in the DSS custody. He's the current governor of Anambra State. He's not a member of the APC. Professor Chukwuma Solodu has already congratulated the president-elect Bola Tinubu and all the winners, and I believe he's looking for something, definitely. But in a statement he personally signed yesterday, Solodu also hailed the Nigerian youth, describing them as the heroes of the 2023 general elections, whose voices will continue to be critical in building of a new Nigeria, whether the new Nigeria will be built or not. But the Anambra State governor said attention should now shift to addressing the nation's challenges from economy, insecurity, noting that the insecurity that is ravaging the southeast should be of all concern. According to him, the critical addressing the problem of insecurity in the southeast is the release of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, who has been in detention for a very long month. Soludo said the 2023 general election in Nigeria have come and gone. The question is Bola Tinubu taking over would allow Chief Sunday Igboho to return back to Nigeria and probably discuss issues that Igboho is fighting for in terms of the right to self-determination of the Yoruba people. Let's talk about it. Scotland is fighting the same cause, and the UK government is not taking the military and using force against those that are doing such. Are they going to allow the same thing? If Tinubu is going to allow that, that means Igboho would have to continue his campaign, without any, intimidation. Nnamdi Kanu will have to do the same thing. These are the questions, and the more these messages pass through the public within Nigeria, which Igboho was trying to do. Nnamdi Kanu has been doing that from 2017 until he was kidnapped. That means more Nigerians will get to know their real identity, and that could be a trouble for Tinubu, or maybe Tinubu might say it's part of democracy. We are no longer in the military era. He fought during the military era of Abacha, and he actually had to run away. He was part of those that set up Nadeco. Is he going to be tolerant is the question, now that he's now taking the battle, the leader of the country, the chief of army staff and all that. We will have to wait and see after May 29. But Soludo is pleading again to the president-elect to look into the case of Nnamdi Kanu?
Well, we hope that they look into the case, because the thing is, if we are practicing democracy, I mean, you give them a chance. Let them come in. Let them have a referendum. If the referendum goes in favor of them, fine. Somebody will say it will be like the Brexit for the UK. Now, if it doesn't go through, fine. It will be like the Scottish one. They'll tell you that you cannot do anything until maybe another 20 years. So all those things have to be put in place. And by so doing, you are able to have establish a bit of peace in that particular area. But I don't know. Well, I'm not a spokesperson for Tinubu. He's not paying us here. We don't know anything about where he is at the moment as well. But listeners, it is Starr Radio UK. Mr. Olayomi in our North London studios. I'm Archie here in the South studios, and we are bringing you updates from Nigeria. Let me hand over to him so I can bring you the rest of the stories and what is happening on the social media platform. Over to you, Yomi.
As we continue to review, some of those, stories surrounding the election, it seems that Adamawa APC, the first female, governor might be coming into Nigeria for a very long time. Looking at what we have right now, there's been so much discussion regarding the election. Nigerians decided who won, lost election. President Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari cannot wait, to leave, because he's actually telling the American that I'm going to return back to, what I love to do best, rearing of my cow. Nigeria have decided who won and lost the election. President Muhammadu Buhari. Following the conduct of the presidential, the governorship, and the legislative election, the President General Muhammadu Buhari retired on Tuesday in Abuja, said he is proud of Nigerian electorate who have realized their power and ultimately decided who won or lost. However, he expressed sadness that some candidates, especially those of the All Progressive Congress, lost their bid. I am unhappy that some candidate lost in that election, but I am inspired by the fact that voters were able to make their own decision to decide who won and lost. Buhari told the outgoing United States ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, at the State House Abuja yesterday, and according to the senior special assistant of the President Media and Publicity, Gabashew, disclosed this in a statement he signed yesterday titled, Recent Election Proof of Nation's Voter Vibrance Maturity, says Buhari. Whether Nigerians agree with that or not, it's just something we can continue to debate about. Soludo promised to probe Onitsha market incident that we talked yesterday. We're a very sad loss to, especially in this very difficult economy that so many people continue to lose their, their hard-earned income. Is fire that could have probably been looked into if the local government and the government were putting the right things in place to make sure that such does not happen. There's still more protests rocking Ogun State, Abia, Nasarawa over the poll result. Is that going to change anything? We don't know. Ogun ex-permanent secretary and wife found dead in Lagos State is a very, very disturbing news as well that I picked up this morning. According to what we have, the family of an ex-permanent secretary in Ogun State, southwest of Nigeria, Adefemi Egbe Oluwa, and his wife, Oluwafunmilayo, have been grieved after their lifeless bodies were found at their residence around Allen Avenue in the Ikeja area of Lagos. According to what we know, the couples were at home with their domestic worker on the day of the governorship and the State House of Assembly election when some yet to be identified person invaded the premises and killed the two couples. After penetrating the crime, the suspect reportedly attacked the domestic worker, beat her till she lost consciousness, and then fled. Following the attack, it was learned that Labour, who got the wind of the information, lamented over the event that claimed the lives of the aged couple during the invasion of their residence. We hope the police, will find, these perpetrated of those that have committed this very gruesome crime against, humanity. The source will confirm the development. Said the police, upon getting to the premises, saw the couple's corpse and the injured domestic worker lying unconscious on the ground, and the couples yet to be identified. Someone also reported the incident to the police. That is very sad news. We're gonna go straight to the social media at 11:31 a.m. I can see already the 1 minute. Resident of Ogun State protests at the INEC office against the outcome of the governorship election, with quite a lot of amount of people in front of INEC. Is all this going to make any changes? We don't know, but like I said, it's just not possible. Simon Ekpa, this man called Peter Obi did not see anything wrong with the kidnapping of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, even as he's been illegally detained, but he sees something wrong in arresting a cyber criminal. I don't know the face you all Indigbo will be using to look your children and tell them your 2023 story and the history in time to come. How you follow a scammer and betrayed your own freedom. Biafrans, please forgive me, but I can't help it. I was told not to talk about anything today, but this is just too much. And, what I have there is Peter Obi. After due inquiries, I regret to say that the arrest of Mr. Nnamdi Chud is further confirmation of Nigerian poor decline performance in the rule of law. I talked about that particular individual in this broadcast where I said, he was arrested, on Saturday, for some of what he was saying that he believes is a member of the Labour Party. As we speak right now, nobody knows his location. So that is what Simon Ekpa is actually responding to. That is, Peter Obi is quick to talk about, the confirmation of Nigerian poor and decline performance in the rule of law, voice and accountability. But he's not talking about Nnamdi Kanu that has been kidnapped and, been there for almost 2 years now. Let's go to court. It's trending. That is the right word now. If you're not happy with the result, go to court. America said, go to court. British government said, go to court. Tinubu said, if you're not happy, go to court. The governorship election, if you're not happy, go to court. So go to court is now trending at about 64,000, this morning, and quite a lot. And I'm not sure why Trump arrest is trending under Nigerian news this morning. It seems that Nigeria are following the situation whether Trump might get arrested, and probably maybe one of those presidential aspirants might get arrested as well. Abia and Enugu is also trending. It seems that Maradona is going in there, and it seems the election is trying to be changed, and they're not happy. That is also trending. So let's pick now, on the word Nigeria, and then we can wrap up the, the update because of our time constraint this morning, as we have to go to the PMQ later on. Looking at the word Nigeria at board_republic. After the election was rigged, the country was at peak of protest and bond. Then one man stood and said, "Be calm," and the whole Nigeria kept calm. Even those who thought they would not, even those that thought one could not celebrate is Peter Obi. Well, whether that was right or not, we'll have to wait and see. We talked about the U.S. mission. We're going to talk about that more later on. We talked about the European Union and international observer declared Nigeria presidential election not credible. We are aware of that already. Some of these are also incidents that Amnesty International have put out this morning as well. On October 1st, 2008, police officer of Lagos State Rapid Response shot Modayo Awosika in the head and then set his car on fire. The results show that he had died of a gunshot wound, but police told the coroner that at Modebayo Awosika car hit the police patrol. These are some of the killings that have been going on in Nigeria, and it seems that Amnesty International Nigeria is just bringing this back up again. The same police also claimed the vehicle of Modebayo Awosika crashed into the ditch and caught fire. The coroner inquest into the death of Awosika uncovered police misconduct. The coroner ordered the police to investigate the case. To Amnesty International knowledge, no investigation has been carried out. The 5 police officers on duty that night were transferred to undisclosed location.
Interesting, because if everybody is saying go to court, and that was the question that I was asking earlier in my presentation, that are our systems robust enough to stand the test of time when people are saying that go to court, and we know that the judges there will not be induced in one way or the other for them to, rule in favor of somebody, but we're looking at the facts on the ground or that have been presented to make their rulings. Who knows? I'm not very, very sure of that, because Awosika's case like that we're talking about, did the car, okay, the police are saying that her car rammed into that of the police one. So when the car ran into their car and then the gun discharged and then killed her, is that what they're trying to talk about? Well, justice? Yomi, I thought you wanted to say something there.
Well, to be honest, we are not surprised, with some of these. For our international audience, they might be shocked. I mean, if you think about this in America, we've seen footage where, the American police have killed innocent, and we've seen the reaction. We've seen the American justice system, doing quickly to make sure that those that are involved, even though there might be police officer, they still have, right to protect, human lives as well. But in Nigeria, these are definitely not something that happens all the time. Star Radio UK.
Wow, listeners, it is Star Radio UK. Now, Esther says, good morning to Mr. Olayomi Koike and Mr. Archie. Okay, listeners, we are bringing the updates to a close here. But Yomi, before you go, what is the topic once again for the Niger Voices?
Well, we're going to be talking about the aftermath of the election and what next for Nigerians.
Okay, the aftermath of the elections and what next for Nigerians. What are you waiting for? What are you hoping to get from Tinubu or whoever? If there's a 10 over 10 of the victory or whatever, what are you waiting for or wishing for? That's going to become your way. Yomi, let me say thank you very much for another brilliant submission.
Thank you so much, and we'll be back again same time later on in the evening at 1800 hours. That will be 1900 hours for those in Nigeria, and that will be 7 p.m. if you're probably getting it mixed up with the 24 hours clock that we use here in UK. So at exactly 7 p.m. later on tonight, I will be on the Niger Voices on Star Radio UK. Have a very good morning, Mr. Archie, and I see you later.
All right, then. Well, listeners, that has been Mr. Olayomi Koike bringing you updates from Nigeria. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let me bring you some music, and then we continue with the show, because we've got just a few minutes to go. But, well, Babylon System, I did talk about that all the time. Cover version by Stephen Marley, and he says Babylon System. Enjoy it. I'll be with you.
This is Star Radio UK.
Refuse to be what you wanted us to be. We are what we are. That's the way it's going to be. If you don't know, you can't educate for no equal opportunity. Talking about my freedom, talking about my freedom, people freedom and liberty. Yeah, yeah, we've been treading on a wine press much too long. Rebel, rebel, we've been taking for granted.
Okay, listeners, Star Radio UK, because of Wednesday edition of the Morning Show, because we have to take you to the House of Parliament, so we need to crack on with it. Don't you worry, I'll make sure that at the latter end, before I take you to the House of Parliament, I'll let you enjoy that tune, the full one from Stephen Marley, a cover version of Bob Marley's Babylon System. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, those of you in Nigeria listening to us, next week we'll be at the same time with you. Okay, so when we say 18 hours, it will be 18 hours. All right. Yes, for those of you in the UK, that means that the clock more or goes forward this weekend. You lose an hour sleep, so you better sleep early so that you can gain it. But let's move on to some of the stories making the rounds. A quick one from other parts of the world. Well, as I did say earlier, Kenya's tourism increased by 83% from 2022, and we hope that good gains are going to be coming in from there. The Marburg virus kills 5 in Tanzania. Health Ministry Minister, Omi Walimu, said the cases were identified in the western region of Kagera, and the government had managed to control its spread. We hope so. And if they need to, keep the people away from each other or lock them down so that you can contain it, they need to do that. And our people, when people die, the way we want to go touch their bodies and the way we handle all those things at times spread some diseases, okay, some communicable diseases, and therefore I think that is very, very important that we change some of our ways when it comes to some of these things. So, well. Now, Ethiopian Parliament removes Tigray Rebel Party from terror list. Well, some good news there. What about that? That is a good one, but I will not be able to bring you all the details. God willing, maybe tomorrow I'll bring you all those details from that front. But wherever you are, it is Starr Radio UK. Let me bring you this one, a quick one, and then from Chad. Now, more than 400 rebels in Chad were handed life sentences on Tuesday following the death of former ruler Idris Deby Itno, who was killed in 2021, the public prosecutor has said. After a mass trial, they were sentenced for acts of terrorism, mercenarism, recruitment of child soldiers, and assaulting the head of state, said Mamat El Haj Abba Nana, the prosecutor of the capital for the capital in Jamena. He did not give a detailed figure for those jailed, saying only that more than 400 were sentenced to life, while 24 others defendants were acquitted. The trial opened last month behind closed doors at Klasum prison, 20 kilometers or 12 miles southeast of the capital. In early 2021, the country's main rebel group, the Front for Change and Concord in Chad, that fact launched an offensive on the north of the country from bases in Libya. On April 20, the army announced that Marshal Deby, Chad's iron-fisted ruler for the previous 3 decades, had died from wounds sustained in the fighting. Now, Deby died just after being declared a winner of a presidential election that gave him his sixth term. Well, he's got his 6th term. But well, when you go to Senegal, well, the president there wants to go for a 3rd term. He said that, you know what, the reforms when it came to the constitution, the fact that saying that now we're limiting the tenure to 5 years instead of the 7 years that originally they were using. He said that, you know what, so the new the amendment in the constitution means that my first 8 years has been quashed, so it's the second one, so now he wants to go on. But then that's why I ask the question again, when people do this, is this or are these not the push factors that cause people to actually rise up against government? But while he wants to go on, maybe he wants his head chopped off. Well, I'm not saying so though. Well, it is all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on quickly. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station. Now, we are one people. Baumia and Mahama allowed peaceful enslavement of new Yagbon Wura. And it's very important because that part of the country always have got such issues going on. Vice President Dr. Baumia and former President John Dramani Mahama say they are happy for the peace and unity in Gonja traditional kingdom. The duo made those comments at the new king of Gonja outdooring in Damongo in the Savannah region. Now, Bikunutu Jewu Swali becomes the 34th Yagbon Wura at Nyaget, the ancient capital of Gonja. Now, speaking at the ceremony, former President Mahama expressed his pride in being a Gonja and was that his tribesmen peacefully undertook the enslavement process. He therefore appealed to the new overlord to continue the good works and tradition of Gonjas in Gonja land, and also calls on the government to support the Gonja kingdom for development. Also, Vice President Dr. Baumia in his address thanked the kingdom for letting peace prevail. He added that despite their political differences, they remain brothers from the north and must live in peace for the development of the northern part of the country. Now, Dr. Baumia added that in the Yagbon Wura's address, government will continue to support the palace of the king and the Gonja kingdom for development. Meanwhile, the secretary to the overlord, Benkuru Wura Saka Mahama, from the Bupe traditional area, in an address delivered on behalf of the overlord, B. Kunotu Jewu Swale, also said. He said, I thank the Vice President and former President John Mahama for honoring the invitation for the outdooring of the new overlord. He added that the new overlord is ready to work hard for peace and development in the traditional area. He, however, urged government to support Gonja land and also help to resolve the few chieftaincy disputes in the kingdom. And I hope that government does so, because when the North has got a bit of peace there, then we know for sure that things will work out very, very well in the country as well. But how's a presidential staffer stole 18,000 men for Jirapa chief? That caused the NDC's 2016 defeat. A report on factors that contributed to the NDC's defeat in 2016 parliamentary and presidential election has emerged online. The report indicates some major reasons some constituencies and recommendations were affected in the 2016 election. I remember the late Dr. Kwesi Bochwe led a committee, fact-finding committee, and came out with some report. I don't know whether it's the same report that we are. Yes, I think so. In the review, the committee, which was chaired by the late Professor Kwesi Bochwe, some shocking revelations were made. For instance, in the case of Nadoli Kalio constituency, there was a complaint about how presidential staffer allegedly removed 18,000 Ghana cedis out of 20,000 Ghana cedis meant for the chief of Nadoli during the then President John Dramani Mahamad's visit in the region. Now, a phone call was later placed to the presidency after the president returned to Accra, and it was revealed that the president actually gave the chief 20,000 and not 2,000 Ghana cedis. In the case of Wa East, the committee revealed that the constituency was divided along ethnic lines. Well, there's lots that is happening from that front, but we'll not have the time to be able to bring all that your way. But it's all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. I promise you that tomorrow, God willing, I'll be touching on some of those stories. But now let's move on to other parts of the world and look at some of the other stories making the rounds. Earthquake in Pakistan and Afghanistan kills 12. Some would say, well, it's better than what happened in Turkey and Syria. At least 12 people have been killed and more than 200 injured after powerful earthquake shook large parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan. The 6.5 magnitude quake damaged buildings, triggering landslide and sent people running into the street. It struck on Tuesday evening, centered in a mountainous region in Afghanistan northeast near the border with Pakistan. The tremors from the remote Jammu Valley were felt as far as India. It was a terrifying tremor. I had never felt such a tremor before in my life, Kabul resident Katera said after rushing out of her fifth-story apartment. 9 of the confirmed deaths were reported in the valley region of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa in Pakistan. 3 others were killed in Afghanistan. The country's health ministry spokesman said a child was among those killed in the Lagman province near the country's border with Pakistan, reports have said. All right then, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, in Ukraine, 4 dead as Russia launches a new attack on cities. Now, we thought that the visit of the Chinese leader might have actually watered down or cooled down the fire or the tempo in there. But Russian forces have attacked several Ukraine cities, killing at least 4 people in a drone strike on a residential area of Kyiv region. Now, upper floors of 2 students' dormitories were hit early on Wednesday in the city of Rishkvik on the outskirts of the capital. An 11-year-old was among the wounded, rescue services said. Now, separately, officials in Russian annexed Crimea said a Ukrainian drone attack on their fleet were repulsed. Now, explosions were reported by residents in the port city of Sevastopol. Now, the head of Russia's occupation authority, Mikhail Razvujev, said 3 objects targeting the Black Sea Fleet had been destroyed and Russian warships were not damaged. Now, there was no comments from Ukraine military, which said earlier this week it had destroyed missiles destined for the fleet at a rail hub in Dazankoy in northern Crimea. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia had launched more than 20 killer drones as well as a missile and shells. Referring to Chinese President Xi Jinping's departure from Russia hours earlier, he said that every time someone tries to hear the word peace in Moscow, another order was given to launch an attack. But did the Chinese leader speak or place a call that was being said that was going to happen between himself and the Ukrainian leader. Did that happen? Well, I'm not very sure about that. On Tuesday, President Vladimir Putin said that many provisions of a 12-point Chinese peace plan can be taken as the basis for settling of the conflict in Ukraine whenever the West and Kyiv are ready for it. The plan makes no specific proposals and does not call explicitly for Russian forces to leave Ukraine's sovereign territory. So, if they put it across, would they accept it? Well, it is all coming away from Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Well, let's touch on one story from the US and then we can move on straight. Now, Trump says, come out, demonstrate. Well, but the demonstrators or supporters say, stay at home, don't come out. Now, Donald Trump called for protests against his possible imminent criminal indictment, and police in major cities are preparing for unrest. But the prevailing message from some of the most fervent supporters is stay home. It's a contradiction that makes sense after investigating pro-Trump spaces online. On mainstream social networks, message apps, and Trump's own truth social rumors are swelling. Now, there's breathless chatter about double agents and false flags, attacks carried out with the intention of blaming opponents for the violence. And that's what some are saying. Now, many of the former president's steadfast supporters believe that the Capitol riot on the 6th of January was instigated not by Trump fans and far-right groups, but such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, but instead by federal agents or left-wing anti-fascist activists who hope to discredit Mr. Trump. They point to the presence revealed in court documents of confidential FBI sources in the crowd that day. But that's very different to saying that there was a plot by federal authorities to spark violence. So, well, are they going to be staying at home? Or are they thinking that, well, and would that make Trump vulnerable? Because he said, get out, come on, get out there. Others are saying, no, don't go out there, because you go, they might stem up trouble or stoke up trouble, and then you will be apprehended for that. Well, it's all coming your way from Star Radio, okay? Lots more going to be coming your way during the course of the week. We promise to do so. Now, MPs have published evidence ahead of Johnson's grilling. It's one of the stories making the rounds here in the UK. A bundle of evidence, including photos and statement, has been released by the MPs investigating Boris Johnson over Partygate ahead of a hearing crucial to his political future. Included is evidence from the UK's top civil servant saying he did not give the former Prime Minister assurances about whether COVID rules were followed in Number 10. Mr. Johnson has admitted he did mislead MPs over Partygate, but not on purpose. He says Wednesday's televised hearing will vindicate him. The former Prime Minister, who was ousted from office last year after a string of scandals, faces being potentially suspended if MPs decide he deliberately misled them, or even worse, being sacked. But what do you think is going to happen there? He is Bojo. Somebody say, that's our Bojo. Somebody say, no. But when it comes to the Brexit, well, we know that the Northern Ireland deal has been quite a tricky one that Boris Johnson couldn't actually negotiate. But the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, managed to strike a deal there with the EU and everything. But two former Prime Ministers, Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, are to vote against Rishi Sunak's new Brexit deal for Northern Ireland in a debate later. Now, Mr. Johnson said the deal will either mean Northern Ireland remain tied to the EU, or the UK will not be able to take advantage of Brexit. Now, Ms. Truss believes it will not resolve issues with a deal Mr. Johnson struck with the EU in 2019. Other Brexit-backing Tories are also expected to oppose the deal. The decision of two former PMs to oppose the deal may embolden Brexit-backing Conservative MPs to rebel against the government. But Northern Ireland Minister Steve Baker denounced the pair, telling broadcasters he will tell them they're both better than this. Now, Mr. Johnson risks looking like a pound shop Nigel Farage, but by voting against the deal, he added. Mark Francois, the chair of the group of Eurosceptic Tories, said a strong recommendation was for Tory MPs to reject the deal. However, the scale of the rebellion is not yet clear. Mr. Sunak's government is still expected to win the vote with the support of Labour, which backs the agreement. The vote is on a key part of the deal known as the Stormont Break, that aims to give future Northern Ireland Assembly a greater say on how EU laws apply to Northern Ireland. Why not? Well, listeners, it is Starr Radio UK, and it seems that is how far I can take you. But my producers have said that I should touch on this before I go. Now, Starmer has been criticized over tax-free pension scheme. I'll not have the time to bring you the details of that, but tomorrow, God willing, I will do so. Now, Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has been accused of hypocrisy by Conservatives over a tax-exempt pension deal he has from a previous job. Sir Keir criticized measures in the budget which scrapped the 1 million cap on lifetime pension savings. Now, the Telegraph reported Sir Keir got a special tax on registered pension scheme when he stood down as Director of Public Prosecutions in 2013. Now, Labour says it was a standard practice for retiring DPPs to get such a deal. But senior Conservative MP Sir Ian Duncan Smith told the Telegraph it made a mockery of Labour's position on the lifetime pension allowance and was as close to hypocrisy as it is possible to get. This is where I bring the program to a close for today, the first part of the program. But we'll be taking you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. But for now, let's enjoy that music that we were enjoying earlier on, the Babylon System. And when that ends, or in midway, I'll be taking you to the House of Parliament for the Prime Minister's question time. But you'll not hear my voice now until I come your way tomorrow. Once again, I say have a top of the day. But remember, this evening, or at 5 o'clock, we'll be bringing you the NHS awareness, COVID awareness campaign that is going on. It comes on in the mornings, weekdays from 10 to 10:15, and then in the evenings from 5 to 5:15 as well. So make sure you don't miss that one. Share it with your friends and loved ones there as well. It helps us when it comes to our health. It is Starr Radio UK. Enjoy the music.
Welcome to the 75th celebration. Love. 1, 2, 3. We refuse to be what you wanted us to be.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is the National Day of Reflection, a Marie Curie-led initiative bringing together communities across the UK to remember family, friends, neighbours and colleagues we have lost. Will the Prime Minister join me in thanking Stoke City Council for supporting my call for a post-box to heaven in Carmountside Cemetery? And on the second anniversary of the tragic death of my constituent, 2-year-old Harper Lee Fanthorpe, who swallowed a button battery, will he thank her courageous mother, Stacey, for leading the campaign to raise awareness of the dangers of button batteries? And will he back my call for legislation to ensure greater product safety?
Well, Mr. Speaker, of course I join my honourable friend in thanking Stoke City Council. I'm very sorry to hear of Harper Lee's tragic case, and my thoughts are with her friends and family, and particularly her mother Stacey. And we are aware of the concerns about button batteries. The law is very clear that products available in the UK must be safe. The Office for Product and Safety Standards has published guidance on exactly this for manufacturers and is working with the Child Accident Prevention Trust to educate parents and childcare professionals on button baton safety.
Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we remember the innocent lives lost 6 years ago in a terror attack on Westminster Bridge. Amongst those tragically killed was PC Keith Palmer, who sacrificed his life to protect others. Police officers up and down the country work tirelessly every day to keep us safe, and we thank them for that. But as we saw this week, those brave officers are being let down. Dame Louise Casey found institutional homophobia, misogyny and racism in the Metropolitan Police. I accept those findings in full. Does the Prime Minister?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, I join with the honourable gentleman paying tribute to PC Palmer and indeed all the other police officers who have lost their lives serving and those who do so much to keep us safe. I was appalled, Mr. Speaker, to read the descriptions of the abhorrent cases of officers who have betrayed the public's trust and abused their powers. And let me be clear, it is and was unacceptable and should never have happened. We have taken a series of steps already, and the government will also now work with the Mayor and the Metropolitan Commissioner to ensure that culture, standards and behaviour all improve. At the heart of this matter are the people whose lives have been ruined by what has happened, and I know the whole House will agree with me that it is imperative that the Met works hard to regain the trust of the people it is privileged to serve.
Keir Starmer.
I take it from that answer that the Prime Minister does accept the Casey findings in full, including the institutional failures. Because nobody reading the Casey report can be left in any doubt about how serious this is, and doubt for a second that it's restricted to the Met. The report lays bare how those unfit to join the police are aided by patchwork vetting systems that leave the door open. If the government backed Labour's plan for proper mandatory national vetting, we could end the farce that sees different police recruitment standards in different forces. Will he back that plan so we can make speedy progress?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's no need to back that plan because we're already taking action to tackle the issues that are raised in the Casey report. And it was actually 2 months ago. It was 2 months ago that I met with Dame Louise Casey and the Metropolitan Commissioner, and we introduced a series of measures. For instance, the College of Policing is currently updating the statutory code of practice for police officer vetting that all forces legally have to follow. All police forces are in the process of checking their officers against the Police National Database, and in weeks, Her Majesty's Independent Inspectorate will report back on their re-inspection of all forces' vetting procedures. Now, these steps, of course, won't undo the terrible damage that have been previously committed, but we owe this action and more to the victims and survivors to ensure that such tragedies never happen again.
Keir Starmer.
Well, the problem with the Prime Minister's answer is what he's referring to isn't mandatory. How can it possibly be right to have different standards for recruitment in different police forces? No wonder the Casey report criticised what she calls the government's hands-off attitude to policing over the last 13 years. But let's call it what it really is: sheer negligence. The report also exposes chronic failures by the police to deal with rape cases, with officers using, and I quote, overstuffed or broken fridges containing the rape kits of victims. On his watch, rape charges are 1.6%. Yet the government still hasn't backed Labour's plan to have proper, high-quality rape and serious sexual offences units in every police force. Why not?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what Louise Casey also says is that primary public accountability of the Met sits with the Mayor of London. She described that relationship between the Mayor and the Met as, in her words, dysfunctional. But when it comes... So I hope when he stands up, he will also confirm to the House that he will take up these matters with the Labour Mayor of London so that he plays his part. But Mr. Speaker, the way rape victims were treated by the criminal justice system wasn't good enough, and that's why the government published an ambitious rape review action plan. It's right that we've extended Operation Salteria across all police forces in the country. We've tripled the number of independent sexual violence advisors. We've improved the process of collecting phone evidence and being cross-examined. And since 2010, we've quadrupled funding for victim support services. That is a Conservative government doing everything we can to support victims and tackle predators.
People are fed up to the back teeth with a government that never takes responsibility and just tries to blame everyone. They can shout if they're proud of the fact that over 98% of rapists are never put before. If they want to shout about that, that's their record. Let them shout about it. You should be ashamed of yourself. The truth is simple. After 13 years of Tory government, crime is out of control and people are paying the price. Before Christmas, the BBC reported the shocking case of a woman in Armthorpe who'd been beaten with a baseball bat by burglars 3 years ago. Nobody had been charged with that burglary, and she couldn't sleep at night. Under their watch, tragically, that's not an unusual case. So can the Prime Minister tell us what's the charge rate for theft and burglary across the country?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, actually, since 2019, neighbourhood crime is down by 25%. But he asked rightly about what's happening with rape cases. So let me just tell him that we are on track to meet our target of doubling the number of rape cases that are reaching our courts. Since the Rape Review Action Plan was published, we've seen police referrals double. We've seen charges double. And last year, there was a 65% increase in rape convictions. Yes. But importantly, we also changed the law to ensure that rapists would spend more time in prison. But what did his shadow policing minister say? Prison doesn't prevent crime. It tells you everything that you need to know about the Labour Party. You can't trust them to keep Britain safe.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stands there and pretends that everything's fine. He is so totally out of touch. He needs to get out of Westminster, get out of Kensington, and Mr. Speaker, I don't think...
It's a big day today in the House, and it's a very important day. We do want to make progress. Holding us up is not advantageous to any of us.
Mr. Speaker, he needs to get out of Westminster, get out of Kensington, and I don't mean to Malibu, to the streets of Britain. Go there and tell people it's all fine and see what reaction he gets. The answer he didn't want to give, although he knows it, is 4% of cases, 4% of burglary charges are charged. 96% of theft and burglary cases not even going before the courts. Burglars twice as likely to get away with it now as they were a decade ago. They should be ashamed of that record. And that cul-de-sac in Armthorpe has apparently seen 10 burglaries in 18 months, but only one of them has resulted in a prosecution. So rather than boasting and blaming others, why doesn't he tell the country when he's going to get the theft and burglary charge rate back to where it was before they wrecked policing?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me say North Yorkshire's a lot further away than North London.
Can I say, I'd like the lines as well, but I prefer to hear them rather than the jeering. Come on, Prime Minister. Mister. Now then, we are going to make progress. Mr. Shelbrooke will be buying the teas in the tea room if we're not careful. Come on, Prime
Minister. There'll be Yorkshire teas, Mr. Speaker. But since the Conservatives came into power, crime is down 50%, Mr. Speaker. Violent crime down 40%. Burglary, the Honourable Gentleman mentioned burglary down 56%. Why? Because we've recruited 20,000 more police officers. We've given them the powers to tackle crime, and we've kept serious offenders in prison for longer. All they've done is vote against greater protections for emergency workers. They've opposed tougher sentences for violent criminals, and they are failing to give the police the powers that they need. It's the same old Labour, soft on crime, soft on criminals.
The only criminal investigation he's ever been involved in is the one that found him guilty of breaking the law. I've prosecuted countless rapists. On the Prime Minister, I want tougher...
Hold on. I am determined to hear the questions, whether it's the Leader of the Opposition, the Prime Minister. So I can... Sorry? I think you've got your first customer for tea, Mr. Kurtz. We keep having this little problem. We'll have no more. No then, just a moment. So please, let's get through and let's just show some respect to both people at dispatch boxes. Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've prosecuted countless rapists and I support tougher sentences. But you have to catch the criminals first. And when 98% of rapists are not even being put before the court, that's a massive failure on government. And if he wants to go to Armthorpe, which is in Yorkshire, why doesn't he go to that cul-de-sac when he gets out and about in Yorkshire and ask them about those 10 burglaries that haven't been prosecuted? The reality is, after 13 years of Tory government, they've done nothing on standards, neighbourhood policing has been shattered, and burglars and rapists walk the streets with impunity. It's the same every week from the Prime Minister, whether it's the cost of living crisis, crime running out of control, or the state of the NHS. Why is his answer always to tell this British people they've never had it so good?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me just address the issue the Honourable Gentleman raised, because I said at the time I respected the decision the police reached and I offered an unreserved apology. But for the avoidance of doubt, Mr. Speaker, at the moment that happened, there was a full investigation by a very senior civil servant. The findings of which confirmed that I had no advance knowledge about what had been planned, having arrived early for a meeting. But he doesn't need me to tell him that. He's probably spoken to the report's author much more frequently than I have.
Luke, the Prime Minister needs to answer the question. He doesn't need you to... I don't think we need any more. Let's keep it that way. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're getting on. We're halving inflation by paying 50% of people's energy bills and freezing fuel duty. We're cutting...
And it's the same for this side. Mr. Gwynn, I don't need any more from the backbenches here either. Can I just say, let's calm... Mr. Fabricant, not again. I'm just quite seriously... Today's a very big day, some important decisions are going to be taken. So please, I want to get this House moving on. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're also cutting NHS waiting lists by resolving pay disputes and getting doctors back to work. And, Mr. Speaker, we're stopping the boats with a new bill to tackle illegal migration. That's a a Conservative government delivering on the people's priorities.
Olayomi Croft. Polly Bumbicroft.
Can I thank my honourable friend, the Prime Minister, for the efforts he has made to support the UK's steel industry? Can I tell him that we remain very concerned about job losses at British Steel in Scunthorpe? So will he today reassure my constituents in North Lincolnshire that we will never see the end of UK steelmaking under his watch?
Mr. Speaker, the UK steel industry can have no greater champion than my honourable friend. And I know that this must be a concerning time for British Steel employees, and we stand ready to work with her to support them. Now, she's right, industrial sectors, including steel, have been able to bid into competitive government funds worth £1 billion to help support them to cut emissions and become more energy efficient. And the government's recently announced British Industry Supercharger Fund can help boost competitiveness in UK's key energy-intensive industries, and I look forward to working with her to ensure a thriving steel industry in our United Kingdom.
Lynydd the SNP Sim Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to begin by paying tribute to PC Palmer, who so tragically lost his life in defence of this Parliament and indeed what we all stand for, democracy. Mr. Speaker, what worries the Prime Minister most about Brexit right now? Is it the likely 4% hit to UK productivity, or is it 3 former Tory leaders planning to vote down his deal this afternoon?
Oh, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the Windsor framework represents.
Just to help the chamber, just help everybody. I understand it's true, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Windsor framework represents a good deal for the people and families and businesses of Northern Ireland. It restores the balance of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement and ensures Northern Ireland's place in our precious union. But what I would say to him, I was more intrigued to see the words of his own party's president, who just this past week have described his own party as being, in their words, in a tremendous mess.
Stephen Flynn. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that whilst Westminster is once again consumed by the damage being caused by Brexit, the public at home are facing the biggest fall in living standards ever, the highest tax burden since the end of the Second World War, and inflation at 10.4%. When are the Conservative Party, and indeed the Labour Party, going to realise that Brexit can't work?
Mr. Speaker, the actions that this government is taking are ensuring that fully half of most families' energy bills are being supported by this government. We're also making sure that we're delivering for people with the cutting NHS waiting lists, and that's something that we're happy to work with the Scottish Government to learn and share best practice with them on. But we're also, Mr. Speaker, delivering on the people's #1 priority, which is to stop the boats and end illegal migration.
Tom Randall.
Mr. Speaker, unemployment claimant rate has declined significantly over the last decade, but there are still vacancies to fill and specific groups to help. And on Monday, the Employment Minister and I visited Arnold Job Centre, where Kelsey and her team are welcoming local employers to speak directly to job seekers, and a dedicated 50-plus work coach is getting more from that bracket into work. So would my right honourable friend join me in congratulating the staff at Arnold and other job centres across the country on the proactive work that they're doing, and when time allows, would you come to visit Arnold Job Centre in person to see the great work they're doing?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend and join him in thanking all the staff at Arnold Job Centre for their hard work. I shall keep his kind invitation to visit in mind. He mentioned the over 50s, and he mentioned the over 50s, or as my right honourable friend the Chancellor described them, are more experienced workers, and he was right to focus on them, because together with the Work and Pension Secretary, we are putting in place a range of measures to help support them to return to and stay in the labour market, and that is something that not only will help us continue to bring inflation down, but will support those people to have healthy, productive, fulfilling lives.
Neil Hamby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The UK Government recently confirmed that Scotland generated and sent south
35 billion kilowatt hours of energy in 2021. That number will rise to 124 billion in less than 8 years' time. For this multi-billion pound bounty, Scotland will see no revenue, no manufacturing or supply chain jobs. In our land of energy plenty, why should our people be cold and hungry and businesses failing as a result of his government's robbery? So what has the Prime Minister to say in defence of this naked exploitation of Scotland's people and its resources?
Mr. Speaker, actually, this government is a strong supporter of Scotland's North Sea oil and gas industry. And actually, it's the economically illiterate policy of, I think, almost all opposition parties to prohibit any new exploration of fossil fuels in the North Sea, which would have us then pay billions of pounds to foreign energy companies and then ship that energy here with twice the carbon emissions. It is a completely absurd policy, Mr. Speaker, that's bad for our security, it's bad for our economy, and that's why we're better off with the Conservatives in charge.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. The island has been getting a better deal in recent years, and I thank the Prime Minister for that, especially before he was a Prime Minister, when he was working with me in different roles when he was in government to make that happen, and I'm grateful. However, the island remains the only sizable island in the UK without a fixed link, separated from the mainland by sea, which does not receive a funding uplift to support local government services. And this injustice has been ongoing now for 50 years. And all the evidence, Mr. Speaker, shows that it costs more to provide local services on an island than on the mainland. Will the Prime Minister work with me and his ministers to overcome this injustice this year? Thank you.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for his continued campaigning on behalf of his constituents. It was a pleasure to spend many happy childhood holidays on the island, and I enjoyed visiting him more recently there as well. The Isle of Wight Council will benefit from a 10% increase in their funding in cash terms for the next financial year, and have been awarded an additional £1 million in recognition of the unique circumstances of the island, as my honourable friend points out. But I will ensure that he does get a meeting with the Minister for Local Government to carry on the good work that he and I started, and make sure that his local constituents get the support that they need.
Rem Stringer.
Mr. Speaker, we now know from the Telegraph's lockdown files that during COVID, at the very heart of government, science wasn't being followed and rational discourse had been abandoned. This had dire consequences for children's education, mortality rates amongst the elderly, the economy and access to the health service. Lessons must be learnt, Mr. Speaker, but we can't wait 10 years for the independent inquiry to tell us what we should do next time when the inevitable epidemic arrives. Will the Prime Minister agree to a short-term focused inquiry that can give us recommendations so that we do better next time?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as with any public inquiry, the process and timing of the inquiry stages are for the independent chair to decide. As Baroness Hallett has previously set out, she intends to gather written evidence throughout this year, with public hearings also starting this year. They held a preliminary hearing in February which covered pandemic preparedness and resilience, and they've set out dates for preliminary hearings into core political and administrative decision-making across the UK throughout this month. But most importantly, the honourable gentleman will recognise it is an independent inquiry, and it's for the independent chair to set the terms.
Jerome May.
Mr. Speaker, more than 1.5 million people living outside London stand to be impacted by the Mayor's new London-wide ultra-low emission zone. Labour and the Liberal Democrats, they're all for the ULEZ charge. They don't care about the cost of living crisis. So does my right honourable friend agree with me that the best way to protect commuters and small businesses from the spread of this unfair £12.50 a day tax is to vote Conservative on May the 4th?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right, and I think he also failed to mention that just this week we've seen Labour in Wales introduce more plans for further road charging as well, increasing cost pressures for public and businesses. And I'd urge the parties opposite to listen and stand up for the public and small businesses, just as the Conservatives do.
Hannah Bardell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. When my wee brother was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis 8 years ago, it's fair to say it turned our lives upside down. I'm incredibly proud of the man he is and all that he's achieved whilst living with this life-limiting condition. And my Livingston constituent, Stephen Sharp, manages local football team the Fulshay in Stonyburn. He has Crohn's disease and he lives with a stoma. And he's like many of our constituents up and down the UK, living with a life-limiting condition, trying to provide for their families whilst holding down jobs with a condition and disease that wreaks havoc on their body. So, Mr. Speaker, given 1 in 4 people wait more than a year for diagnosis, will the Prime Minister and indeed the House support the campaign to cut the crap and get diagnosed early for Crohn's and colitis? And would he meet with my constituent Stephen and I to look at what more can be done for awareness, research and funding?
Can I thank the Honourable Lady for her question and pay tribute to, I think, her brother and also Stephen for everything that they're doing to raise awareness of this issue. I'd be very happy to meet with her and Stephen. It is something that I am familiar with, and it is a very difficult condition for people to live with, and it's right that they get the support and attention that they deserve, and I look forward to that discussion with her.
Sir Jeremy Wright.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My constituent Jamie Scott spent 4 weeks in a coma and remains seriously disabled as a result of a COVID vaccination. He and his family continue to believe that mass vaccination is the right policy, but it must also surely be right to ensure that that tiny minority who are seriously injured as a result are properly compensated. In the absence of court cases it's in no one's interests to litigate, the current limit on compensation is £120,000, even for very serious and lifelong injury, and anyone who is disabled by less than 60% gets nothing at all. That cannot be right. Will my right honourable friend look urgently at changing it?
Mr. Speaker, it is important to start by recognising the importance of vaccines in protecting us all, and not least the fantastic rollout of the COVID vaccines across the UK. But I am very sorry to hear about the case that my right honourable friend raises. In the extremely rare case of a potential injury from a vaccine covered by the scheme, a one-off payment can be awarded. This is not designed to be a compensation scheme, and it does not prevent the injured person in pursuing a legal compensation claim with the vaccine manufacturer. We are taking steps to reform vaccine damage payment schemes by modernising the operations and providing more timely outcomes. But of course, I'll be happy to talk to the honourable gentleman further about it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The new inflation stats this morning show food inflation is at 18%, the highest in 45 years. Millions are living in food and fuel poverty because of this government's failures and political decisions to enable grotesque profiteering at the expense of our communities. How on earth can the Prime Minister claim his plan is working, or is it in his eyes? Is it a success that so many people are struggling with their weekly food shop?
Mr. Speaker, the figures that have been recently published show that since 2010 there are 2 million fewer people living in poverty, thanks to the actions of this and previous Conservative governments. Of course, no one wants to see people struggling with week-to-week bills like food, which is why it's so imperative we stick to our economic plan, and as the OBR have said, we are on track to halve inflation by the end of this year. That is the most important thing we can do to ease the burden on people, and in the meantime we have a range of programmes, whether that's free school meals or indeed the holiday activities and food programme, to provide support to the most vulnerable families who need our help.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 60 million to improve transport links from Wednesbury to the rest of Black Country, 4 million for Wednesbury High Street, and last week, the most important part of the budget, the £22.5 million to leaven up Tipton Town Centre. Mr. Speaker, this government has put a vote of confidence in my communities, one they've not had for nearly 50 years. Can I ask my right honourable friend, delivery is going to be absolutely key on these projects, because can he ensure, using his good office, that we absolutely get this delivered on time and realise the potential of my communities in Tipton and Wednesbury?
Or can I pay tribute to my honourable friend for his tireless campaigning on behalf of his local communities? I'm delighted that we are investing across the West Midlands, but particularly in places like Wednesbury and Tipton. And again, we will work with him to ensure that those investments are indeed delivered, working with the local councils, Transport for West Midlands and the West Midland Combined Authority. Those investments are going to transform people's lives and spread opportunity in his area, and he deserves enormous credit for making that happen.
Here, Mams. Very grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, households in Gateshead have seen their energy bills triple over the last 2 years. They've endured not just the energy unit price increase, but the daily electricity standing charges increase from an average of 22 pence in 2019 to 58 pence from next month. An increase of 155% in standing charges, over £200 per year. To many of my constituents, particularly those in low-income households, this seems like a company tax just for having the temerity to be connected to the network. And these schemes will continue long after energy support schemes have ended. So will the Prime Minister commit to ending the regressive increases in standing charges and instruct Ofgem to return them to 2019 levels, or even end them completely?
Mr. Speaker, thanks to the Chancellor, the Government is providing support to a typical household energy bill, around half of that bill over the winter, support that was extended in the budget and will be worth £1,500 to a typical family. But we went further, Mr. Speaker, for those most vulnerable families. As the Chancellor announced, we will be ending the discrepancy between unit charges for those on prepayment meters, something that many in this House have called for, and also providing generous cost of living payments worth £900 to the most vulnerable families.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, two of my constituents, George and Carol Ellis, are my guests here in the gallery today. Sadly, in 2021, their son died by suicide. George was a member of the Yorkshire Regiment and had become depressed following one of his comrades who had taken his own life. In memory of George, Adrian and Carol have set up a support group which marries up one veteran with another who is able to talk through and hopefully help them. The support group is called Get Emotions Out, after George. Would the Prime Minister join me in offering condolences to Adrian and Carol, and also his support for the work that they're now doing?
Can I join my honourable friend in sending my and the whole House's condolences to George's friends and family, and thank his parents for the brave work they are doing to raise awareness of veterans' mental health. Support is available for anyone experiencing suicidal thoughts, including from the Samaritans helpline. And thanks to the excellent work of my honourable friend, the Veterans Minister, we are working specifically to support veterans' mental health through Op Courage, which is a bespoke mental health and wellbeing service for veterans in the NHS, backed by considerable funding, which was increased in the recent budget. And that fully integrated service will be launched next month. But again, I pay tribute to George's parents for all the incredible work that they are doing.
Alison Thewlis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent, Mariam Amiri, came to the UK from Afghanistan on a spousal visa back in 2016. The Home Office have just refused her renewal and advised she should return to Afghanistan. Mariam is an educator, due to start a university course in September. She's a valued community activist. She's a vocal opponent of the Taliban. She is married to a man who worked for British forces, and her family is currently being persecuted in Afghanistan. She's been trying to get them here since Afghanistan fell. Can the Prime Minister think of any barriers or hardships Mariam might face in returning to a country where there is not even any means of applying for a visa? And will he personally intervene, as the Immigration Minister is yet to reply to me, despite raising this 3 weeks ago?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on an individual's visa case, but I will ensure that the Honourable Lady gets a response from the Home Office with regard to that particular case.
Len Saxsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I ask the Prime Minister to pay tribute to and congratulate my constituent, Max Woozy, best known as the boy in the tent, whose 3-year adventure camping outside is drawing to a close. To date, he has raised over £750,000 for the excellent North Devon Hospice, and will my right honourable friend wish everyone taking part in his final adventure, a camping festival at Broomhill Estate, great success.
Well, can I join my honourable friend in paying tribute to Max and everyone else taking part in this fantastic initiative and congratulate them on raising such a considerable sum of money for a very worthy local cause, and I look forward to hearing how the rest of it goes, but very well done.
Final question, Alan Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the Treasury receives an additional £65 billion revenue from Scotland's oil and gas, they've only allocated £20 billion for carbon capture, but nothing for Scotland. They've cut the renewable energy budget by a third. They've only allocated £10 million for Scotland's world-leading tidal stream and failed to back pump storage hydro. But yet they want us to contribute our share towards the £35 billion Sizewell C nuclear power station. Isn't it the case that within the Union, Scotland is the energy, but Westminster takes the powers?
Mr. Speaker, not only are we supporting Scotland's North Sea oil and gas industry, we're also providing £20 billion of funding for further carbon capture and storage, and does want to work and provide clarity for Acorn regarding their future path. But also, I think the honourable gentleman raised the issue of tidal power, and I am pleased to tell him that actually that is now included in the contracts for difference allocations, and there's 40 megawatts of new tidal stream power by 4 projects across Scotland and Wales in the last year. That's this government delivering energy security across the United Kingdom.
Complete questions. Lane Saxby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to raise a point of order regarding the honourable member for Twickenham's speech yesterday, in which he raised investment at one of my excellent North Devon schools. This was done without prior notification to myself or the school. And having spoken directly to the school and local education authority this morning, it does appear that the information presented was at best misleading, as the school has an extensive works programme planned to expand the school's capacity, and the timing of future works is being determined around the best interests of the pupils and the staff, with professional advice certainly not held up by a lack of funding. As a former teacher myself, I find it deeply disturbing that Liberal Democrat MPs are prepared to use schools outside their own constituencies as political pawns in this place. And Mr. Speaker, might you advise how best to correct the record and ensure there is no further repeat of this situation?
Could I just say, Sir Lady, I presume she has let the honourable member know that she was going to raise this point of order. Can I say, well, I'm grateful to the honourable member for giving notice of a point of order. I assume, as I said, she's given notice, which she assures me have. What I would say is, as she knows, it's not that the chair is responsible for the accuracy of members' contributions in the chamber. If a member has made a mistake, I would encourage that member to correct the record at the earliest opportunity. But the honourable member has quite rightly put it on the record for us all to know the situation. Alison McGovern, point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for accepting the point of order. Just now, the Prime Minister, in response to a question about his pretence that living standards are getting better in this country, replied that he is halving inflation on the very day that we have found out that inflation is in fact rising. So could I ask you, Mr. Speaker, as you said on this important day for this House, could I ask you how the Prime Minister can correct the record?
As the honourable knows, and I know, she does know the answer to that. What I would say is she's actually put it on the record what the situation is. As you know, it's not a matter for the chair, but it is a matter for each individual to try and make sure the correct. Ian Paisley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, there will be a substantial piece of Northern Ireland business debated today about the Windsor framework, and the government has indicated that this is going to be an indicative indication how this Parliament feels about the entirety of the framework, even though it's just about one component of the framework. Given that it will be signed over on Friday by the Foreign Secretary, why has this House only allocated 90 minutes for a debate on this very important subject that will not give Northern Ireland members alone enough time to debate this, let alone the rest of this House? How can we fix this before Friday, Mr. Speaker?
As you know, I have no responsibility for the amount of time. That is done by the government who own the order papers. I don't own the order paper. And obviously, I think he's down to speak, and I'm sure he wants to raise the points at that time. Right, no further points of order. We now come to presentation of Bill.
Thank you, Mr.
No problem. Jim McMahon.
Water Quality Sewage Discharge Bill.
Presentation, sir. Second reading what day?
Friday, 21st of April, sir.
Friday the 21st of April. You're right, Jim. Right, we now come to the 10-minute rule bill. Natalie Alfie. Mr. Graham. Please, the member was standing to address me. And it's no use holding your hands up. Take notice of what's going on. It's totally unfair to the member. It's a 10-minute rule bill. Please wait. You are important, but not that important. Natalie Alfie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to amend Schedule 9 to the Equality Act 2010 to prohibit age discrimination by employers in relation to the provision of insurance or related financial services and for connected purposes. There are more workers working over the age of 65 than ever before. Nearly 1.5 million people, of whom around two-thirds, a million workers, are employed, contributing 32 million hours of work in an average week. There has been a rapid acceleration in the shape and scale of older working. Sectors in which older workers are most likely to be employed are some of those which are particularly important to our economy and our communities. Around a quarter of such older workers are employed in healthcare, social work and education. The car industry and technical sectors also employ high numbers of older workers. If we want people to have the option to work later in life, we have to give them the tools, support and legal protection that they can do so. That includes protecting workers from discrimination solely on the basis of age. Age discrimination, like any other form of discrimination, is humiliating, demeaning and damaging. Right now, provisions in Schedule 9 of the Equality Act, introduced in 2011, make it lawful to discriminate on the basis of age in relation to health and insurance employment benefits. Now let me explain why that is wrong. I have a constituent, Stephen, who is here in the public gallery today with his wife, Marcia. Stephen is a train driver with Eurotunnel and has been since the tunnel first opened 30 years ago. Stephen worked on the building of the tunnel itself. At the age of 66, his statutory pensionable age, he didn't get a birthday card from his bosses. He got a letter. The letter explained that while it wasn't possible to sack him on the grounds of age, Eurotunnel were terminating his health insurance, death in service, and income protection policy for long-term sickness and accidents. Now, Stephen is doing the same job at 66 that he did at 65, but now he does not get the same money's worth or terms and conditions in relation to his contract of employment. In simple terms, Stephen does not get equal pay and conditions to another younger worker simply by reason of age. If Stephen falls ill, he cannot get access to the same speedy private healthcare cover that other people working with the company can, and this includes in relation to a workplace injury. If, heaven forbid, he died, his wife, Marcia, would no longer have compensatory insurance through death in service benefits. However, he is doing exactly the same job as someone else. It's the same job he did before he reached retirement age that he is doing now, and for the same company. The attitude demonstrated by Eurotunnel seems to me to communicate to Stephen and the wider employment community in Kent that it thinks a person who is older is worth less. Now, Stephen has made it clear to me that he loves working at Eurotunnel. He wants to carry on working at Eurotunnel, but he does, of course, feel let down In Stephen's case, I have written to the Chief Executive of GetLink, the operators of Eurotunnel, to ask them to reconsider, not least in light of Stephen's long service and commitment to the company. Standing here today, they haven't as yet, although they have said they are discussing it with their insurers. We need to tackle this issue if people are to stay in the workplace longer. We should tackle it because it is simply unfair and wrong. It must be tackled here in this place by changing the law. Because, and I do want to be really clear about this, Eurotunnel is perfectly within their legal rights to act as they have done. It is entirely a matter for them whether or not they want to include all their workers fairly and equally, or discriminate against one who've reached retirement age. The bill that I'm seeking to introduce today seeks to put that right for every older worker in this country by changing the law on workplace benefits so that older people are treated on the same basis as any other part of their employment relationship. Mr. Speaker, there was a time when a pregnant woman had to quit her job and she just had to leave the workplace. Then she didn't have to lose her job. And then it was said that if women were given paid maternity leave, then women wouldn't get jobs if they were of childbearing age. There are those who claim this reform to end age discrimination would be costly to business, just as they used to say the same about women who went on maternity leave. Yet, as we know, employers found that retaining women in the workplace didn't just benefit mothers, it benefited the businesses themselves. Businesses who were able to retain the vital skills and knowledge of female workers. In the same way, older workers have skills and knowledge gained over many years in the workplace. Treating older workers fairly will encourage them to stay and benefit the companies that they work for. I remember a time when employers would say that a woman did not need to work, did not need to get the same bonuses as a man, that a woman didn't need to be offered overtime, because it was men who had the families to feed. We've outlawed that because equal pay at work is not about who is doing the work, it is about what the work is. And that applies every much to a younger worker as an older worker doing the same job. Another excuse given is that covering older people becomes more expensive for everyone. The premium for the company itself goes up. This is, of course, an absurd excuse, because applying that logic, would it be okay to exclude from employment benefits people who have heart conditions, cancer, bad backs, people with disabilities or chronic conditions? Of course not. We would say it was discriminatory and wrong, because it is. So unless we tackle age discrimination, we will continue to have a working environment where it's very difficult for people who are working in older age. Mr. Speaker, an example of why the law needs to change is sitting here today in the public gallery. Stephen Horn, a man whose blood, sweat and hard work helped to build one of the great wonders of our time, the tunnel under the English Channel from the UK to France. A working man treated worse, treated badly, solely by reason of his age. Stephen is my constituent, and I'm putting forward this bill because I don't think that Stephen should have been treated in this way. It's disgraceful and unacceptable, and neither should any other older worker. The support I've received from right across this House has given me real heart. This bill has received incredible cross-party support. I would like to thank my honourable friends for North Devon, Hastings and Rye, Southend West, Bly Valley, as well as the honourable members for Liverpool West Derby, Birmingham Selly Oak, and those on the face of the bill who I shall name shortly, and a number of others. We are at our very best in this place when we come together to address injustices and right wrongs. I very much hope that Stephen's Eurotunnel law will be a turning point for protecting older workers in the workplace in the years to come. I commend this bill to the House.
The honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. The question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. As many of that opinion say aye. Aye. The contrary no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare to bring in the bill?
Caroline Noakes, Dame Diana Johnson, David Linden, Jim Shannon, Bob Blackman, Rachel Maskell, Marion Fellows, Henry Smith, Tony Lloyd, Marco Longi, and myself.
Natalie Alfick.
Employment Equality, Insurance, etc. Bill.
Second reading what day?
Friday, 24th November.
Friday the 24th of November. Thank you. We now come to motion number 2 on the Northern Ireland. Minister to move.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the draft Windsor Framework Democratic Scrutiny Regulations 2023, which were laid before the House on 20th of March, be approved. Before I start, Mr. Speaker, can I mention that it is my normal practice to take as many interventions as I possibly can during a debate. However, this debate is on a statutory instrument and therefore limited in time. So I will take interventions, but I won't take the normal number that I would. And I will try and mop up all the questions raised in the debate at the end with the leave of the House. The Stormont Break is at the heart of the Westminster Framework. It addresses the democratic deficit, restores the balance of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, and ends the prospect of dynamic alignment. It restores practical sovereignty to the United Kingdom as a whole and to the people of Northern Ireland in particular. I will give way to my...
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. As someone who served in the province during the Troubles and saw firsthand the pain and anger endured by all communities, does he agree with me that the Windsor Framework not only restores the balance of the Belfast Agreement, but also offers the province much greater prosperity by way of inward investment,